Thank you everyone for being here today and welcome to the second day of the National Zero Waste Conference. Today is an exciting day because it also is the start of Race to Zero Waste annual campaign, Zero Waste Month, where we highlight expert speakers throughout the month of October. And so today marks that first day. My name is Daniella and I'm the outreach coordinator with Race to Zero Waste, and I'll be your moderator for today's panel. Today's topic will discuss the exciting opportunities for zero waste in South Florida, which is at a pivotal moment for source reduction and resource management. However, the region faces several challenges that highlight the urgency of this work. Miami is severely overburdened by single-use plastics and marine debris. Miamians produce an average of 7.9 pounds of trash per day compared to the national average of 4.9 pounds. South Florida's waterways and streets are overburdened with litter, with over 5,000 tons of material removed from storm drain pumps in Miami-Dade County alone, and more than 1 million pounds of litter being cleaned up by volunteers. In 2020, only 1% of plastic bottles were recycled in Miami-Dade, and by 2023, the county was considering canceling its recycling contract altogether. The breakdown of Miami-Dade's incinerator in 2023, which previously handled nearly half of the county's materials, has pushed already strained landfills to the brink of capacity. Despite these challenges, there's growing awareness and community engagement around zero waste initiatives, and with the work of our three panelists, the movement is growing. So with that, I'll have the panelists introduce yourselves, and I'll start with Madeline.
Thank you for having me. My name's Maddie Kaufman, and I am the program director of the Miami-based nonprofit Debris Free Oceans. And we actually just turned 10 this year. And so we really work to empower local communities to go zero waste. And so our kind of main programs over the years had been doing community events. So that's cleanups with the purpose of education for prevention, other community events like composting and upcycling workshops. We do education in schools and beyond, kind of at all levels, from pre-K all the way up to the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute. So really a curriculum for kind of all age ranges. And then we've been doing some sustainability consulting work to help businesses reduce waste and also help governments create community campaigns to incentivize waste reduction as well. These have kind of morphed into two overarching programs that I feel like I'll talk a little bit about more into the panel. But one is Zero Waste Miami, which is a new coalition that we just got some funding from Sea Grant to formalize, where we're getting the community and businesses and governments together to come up with some concrete zero waste action strategies. And then we have an initiative called Plastic Free Cities, where we actually train high school students to do the sustainability consulting, and those students go to businesses to talk about reducing waste. And so I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Thanks, Madeline. And now we will have Richard.
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Richard Ramcharitar. I am the founder and director of a grassroots organization named Broward Clean Air. We started about a year ago, and this came about from watchdog activities at our town council meetings in Southwest Ranches, where we learned about the intent to build incinerators at the edge of the Everglades here in Broward County, and also near to rural and urban communities. So what we've done is that we've started public outreach. We've reached out to our community members as well as the elected officials in Broward County. We have reached out also to the Miccosukee Tribe of Indians, which is a constituent of ours. And we're also advocating for zero waste strategies and circular economies by introducing education in collaboration with Zero Waste USA. We've actually enlisted a number of community members as well as elected officials to take the Introduction to Zero Waste course and go on beyond that. We are members of the Global Alliance for Incinerator Alternatives, Florida Rising, Energy Justice Network. We also mentor students in zero waste, and we're encouraging them to build up zero waste initiatives in the community. And we're involved in environmental activism. We've been up to Tallahassee to lobby our legislators and help them understand about climate change, as well as zero waste initiatives that are needed down here in South Florida. There are some bills that we're trying to repeal as well as amend. One of them happens to be SB 1764, which is uh, um, the waste to energy bill. It's a grant program which gives the municipalities grant funding to build or repair existing incinerators. Um, this is one of the reasons why the counties, both Broward and Miami, are pursuing incinerators in addition to the IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act, which also provides federal funding. Um, yeah, so that's pretty much what we are doing here. We're really trying to build a coalition of organizations and community members to oppose incineration. And educate the public and elected officials on alternatives to incineration. We're not just saying don't build an incinerator or any other types of incinerator technologies. We're actually trying to give them the solutions. And we have been moving the needle in the right direction, because when they first started out, they were all in for waste to energy because the industry did a very good job in reaching out to them and convincing them that that was the only solution that they had. But now that we've gotten involved and actively involved in this, we have been educating them and in monthly meetings, the Solid Waste Authority meetings, as well as monthly community meetings in the town of Southwest Ranches for both incinerator and zero waste information to the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Thanks so much. And lastly, we'll have MacKenzie introduce himself.
Hi, everyone. My name is MacKenzie Marcelin. I'm the Climate Justice Director for Florida Rising, he, him, his pronouns. And Florida Rising is a independent political organization that works to center marginalized communities, ensuring that our communities are along the pathway to reshaping Florida's futures. And obviously that includes ensuring that that we have clean air, and that we stop incineration and promote zero waste projects. We started this fight, I believe, like 4 years ago. When one of our community organizers was in Doral, living in that community, experiencing foul odor and just poor living qualities because they're surrounded by the incinerator that unfortunately burned down. That's where we started the fight. We weren't experts in this in zero waste, but we did the best we could to catch on, to inform ourselves, inform our communities on the solutions that are very real and very tangible, promoting the moving transition and moving away from incineration. And so that effort led us here, and I'm glad to be a part of this panel.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone. Appreciate the introductions and giving some background info on what you're up to down in South Florida. So to give more of context, I'm wondering if you can provide an overview of the current waste crisis in South Florida and in your communities, and how does that compare to other regions in the US? And I want this to sort of be open discussion, open style, so feel free to jump in whenever.
Okay, so I will start it off. The current waste situation that we have in South Florida is that both counties, Broward and Miami-Dade counties, are running out of landfill space. They need to find alternatives for the voluminous waste that we generate. In Broward County, we generate about 4 million tons a year. Of that, there are about 2 million tons of organic waste. It's all going to the landfills currently with the current franchise agreements that they have with Waste Management and other haulers like Republic and Coastal. And this is a big problem because it's contributing towards the methane problem that we have. That's a huge factor in climate change. So, we're exploring different alternatives because we have this opportunity right now to create a 40-year master plan in Broward County. We have an executive committee made up of municipalities, their municipal leaders, commissioners, and county commissioners involved in this. And we also have an executive director. His name is Todd Storty. He flew in from California to bring his expertise in zero waste methods. And we're looking at transitioning from incineration and landfilling to cleaner, more circular economy methods of managing solid waste, through zero waste policies, programs, initiatives, and infrastructure. So this is what's going on right now in a nutshell. What's going on here is that we're running out of landfill space, and we need to find a way to process all of the municipal solid waste that we have currently, as well as in the future, because we're a growing population down here in Florida. So this issue is front and center for South Florida because they're looking to build new incinerators at new site locations, and this has not been done since 1995. The last expansion that there was in 2015, and these were the incinerators up in West Palm Beach. They're the newest. They built the newest incinerator there, and they boast a lot that it's producing zero waste, green energy, and all of these things are false claims, and it's a false solution. Incinerators emit dioxins and furans. They produce toxic ash, and we have to be cognizant of that. And I think it's an education process that we have to go through here in Florida because we're not up to date on protocols like in California and other parts of the country. So, personally, I have traveled out to California twice. I've been to Brazil for an international congress on zero waste. And I can tell you that the world is moving towards this direction of building zero waste circular economies. And this is something that Florida has to adopt. It has to in order to fend off from a toxic crisis that we're facing right now.
Absolutely. And I think the use of incinerators obviously points to environmental justice issues. MacKenzie, how is Florida Rising dealing with those problems?
Yeah, with incineration, correct?
With incineration, right?
Yeah, no, so we've been actively working to educate the communities on the harms of incineration. When we first got into the fight, we did have that incinerator that exists. It was towards the end of its life, and like our focus was to develop a plan to transition away from that old facility that was built in, well, I believe the 80s, develop a zero waste, work with the county and other stakeholders, including Debris Free Ocean and others to develop a plan to transition. Unfortunately, that incinerator in February burned down and accelerated a lot of our plans. And so we really been focused on one, stopping the construction of a new facility, because obviously we believe, if a new incinerator was built, $1 billion incinerator was built, it would decentivize any zero waste efforts that we fight for it. So there's a clear twofolded of battles, like stop the bad, build the good, right? And we want to make sure that we do whatever we can. So we last legislative session we tried to pass policies to stop that, essentially slow down that pot of money that was going down to local communities. Unfortunately, it didn't pass, but we're still in that fight. To slow down and stop those efforts, from additional funding. We held zero waste workshops. We talked with commissioners about the harms of incineration because obviously, some of those industries, have their lobbyists and they're, sending false information about zero waste and the viability of it and the information about the incineration. So we've been working really just to collectively organize our communities, educate them on the harms, inform them on the solutions and how it can benefit all our communities broadly. And so, yeah, we've done a number of things, passing policies, attending those commission meetings, organizing our communities, mobilizing around this issue, ensuring that we all are in the same message, that no incinerator should be built. Right now they're deciding between, 4 proposed sites, and we're seeing communities being pitted against each other's. But really, our goal is to elevate and say, hey, we can all benefit and all push forward for zero waste. And so that's, a lot of what we've done. And again, what's important to our communities is that the burden that is faced on communities of colors is not felt, but we also obviously don't want it anywhere, but we also want to make sure that our communities are at the forefront and at the table of solutions, and so that we all can collectively benefit from real zero waste solutions. So yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you, MacKenzie. And Madeline, how about for you? What is the current waste crisis in your community, and how are you actively working to promote zero waste?
Yes, so I'm glad you brought up the stat where the 8 pounds, the 7.9 pounds of trash per person per day, I believe is for city of Miami, compared to the national average of about 5. And more recently, I actually heard our own county elected officials saying for Miami-Dade County as a whole, it's actually 11 pounds. And so we're producing more than double that national average. And again, it's funny to hear some of our elected officials use that stat as a reason to need the incinerator when I'm like, this is clear that there are opportunities to reach to what they're doing in other parts of the US. And so I think there's a lot of opportunity for us to reduce the amount of waste we're generating in the first place, which is really where Debris-Free Oceans has been focusing. And so we recently started this Zero Waste Coalition with the goal of bringing in these kind of true zero waste service providers, or uplifting ones that are already here so people know about them and can figure out how to work with them and bring their services to their institutions. And so that's kind of reuse and refill, repair providers, composters, and lifting them up, making sure people know that they exist and know how to use them, and also identifying kind of barriers that we need to remove so that those services can scale and be successful. And I think we are seeing a lot of that initial success, which is super exciting. 2 of our major universities down here started offering reusable to-go containers, University of Miami last year, FIU this year. We have some refilleries. We have a company that does the kind of reuse vending it's almost like a vending machine at farm stores and Sedano stores. And we have a reusable cup provider down here. But also, all of that to say, there have also been a lot of challenges. We used to have the Rounds delivery service that canceled their servicing of Miami about a year ago because they were having issues with marketing and needing things to be more Instagrammable because people love to be influencers in Miami. We did a reusable carryout container pilot that was open system and challenging, and now that company's kind of taking a pause to kind of assess how to best move forward. And we did just see one of the locations for a refillery close. And that was due to a kind of grease management thing they needed to install that would be like $25,000 to be permitted through the city of Miami. And so what we're really hoping through this coalition is by getting everyone together and doing these workshops and having entities from our environmental regulatory department and the businesses themselves and the people that want to use them in the same room to come up with these plans and identify these barriers. So it's not after implementation where we have to kind of pull back and then kind of backtrack a little. We're hoping that it leads to success and really helping get down that 11 pounds of waste per person per day, because that's just insane.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think I mean, the biggest key is definitely education, but then it's also involving local government, which it sounds like you all are doing in your work. And so I'm curious is how do we push for zero waste initiatives or zero waste planning when perhaps the community or local government is more focused on managing residual items or landfill bound items or items to feed the incinerator, right? That's their whole thing. So how do we make zero waste part of the conversation more?
Yeah, so some of the things that we're doing on the local level is that we have farmers market tabling events where we're reaching out to our communities. People who come to the farmers market get an opportunity to see how they get a demonstration about what composting is all about and how it's done. Um, we try to sign people up so that they can use the service. Where they can give their food scraps to a service that's picked up on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, taken down to the farm, it's composted, and then after 6 months, they're eligible to receive some of the composting back for their own personal use in their gardens. Um, the other thing that we've done here in the town of Selfish Ranches is that we've actually going to put out an RFP for a compost pilot program, and that's also going to include glass recycling. Um, so that's something that we're looking forward to in 2025 to get that underway, as well as a zero waste plan. An RFP is going to be put out pretty soon, and this is probably the first RFP of its kind in Broward County and possibly even South Florida. So we're looking forward to that coming to into play in helping us develop a zero waste plan, a working zero waste plan that can be implemented and monitored and modified over a period of time. And we'd like to make that showcase that to our elected officials who have to make decisions down the road on the master plan, which is due to be concluded in March 2025. So we should have a master plan in March 2025, and all of these initiatives that we're undertaking right now is helping to steer their decision making. I would like to add too, we're doing something in 2025 in cooperation, partnership with Race to Zero Waste. We are going to have a national zero waste forum here, and that's going to be hosted over at the Ann Cove Nature Center in Hollywood, Florida. So we want to invite everyone to come down and participate in that event because it'll be the first one of its kind in South Florida. And we're looking forward to Maddie and MacKenzie, their groups joining on as well and bringing all of Miami, Zero Waste Miami, to participate in this week-long event. So I'll hand it over to MacKenzie or Maddie.
Yeah, I think on Florida Rising perspective, we definitely I think first and foremost we have to make the demand, right? For more zero waste projects and infrastructure and policies. And so that's just really goes for about informing the community and the community members informing their elected officials that this is what they'd like to see. And so that's really what our focus was, after before the incinerator, burned down, and even shortly after, the conversation, there was, little to no conversation of zero waste. And I think, ours and other collective groups, made the call, made the demand, showed up at commission meetings, had residents show up and make that ask of zero waste and, push it out in the media. There were a lot of commissioners that we met with that, had initial conversation and said, it's not realistic, it's not possible. And then shortly after, after they say, oh, maybe it is possible. Maybe we can do it. There's actually one, particular commissioner that was actually working with debris-free ocean in their, plastics, plastic-free cities. And so I was like, that's zero waste. That's an initiative. And so, it's just really just, bringing to light that this is viable, not only to our elected officials, but to our community members, and really just showing that it can benefit us all. It can create job. It can lessen the burdens on all of us collectively, and ensuring that not one community is suffering with all our waste. And so so yeah, it's just, going first and making the demand. And so, we made, as a collective and as a community, we made the call to the point where our mayor is pushing forward to develop a zero waste plan. And so I think the next step for us is, as that plan is being developed, that we're community members are involved in that the community is being heard, and that we push forward these collective ideas, and have our hands in that plan, to develop something that is real and tangible, and that could be there for generations.
Absolutely. I think it's all about, I mean, I think, well, personally speaking, with zero waste, it just touches upon so many aspects of our lives. It basically touches everything. And so I think if we're able to tether that thread and show that to local governments, city officials, or something that they care about, and just connecting the dots, I think definitely brings it more into life, and they realize what you said, like, oh, that actually is zero waste. Got it. Great. Madeline, what about for you?
Yeah, I love that you just mentioned that, because if we really want people to get involved in your campaigns or this advocacy work, you have to speak to them about an issue in a way that is meaningful to their experiences for them to really care. And fortunately, again, with waste, I'd say 99, maybe 100% of the time, there's a way to relate waste in a meaningful way to something that a person cares about, whether it's through passion, through work, through their family. And so I think that's really powerful. I think that's more challenging in Miami because we have an amazing, diverse cultural mixing pot of people that live here. So to do a large scale campaign, you're going to have to spend the time and the funding to make sure that campaign is kind of tailored by these specific regions. Before the rest of people popped on, we were talking a little bit about the Circularity Informatics Lab at Georgia did one of their circularity assessment protocols in Miami. And one thing that I always think about was they interviewed recycling haulers, and the recycling haulers were talking about how the recycling contamination is so different by specific neighborhoods, where one neighborhood needs to be educated about not throwing their organics within their recycling, and one neighborhood the contaminants were completely different. And so I think having those very tailored approaches is important, and just being able to take a step back to meet people where they are, because a lot of this is very new. I'm sure Richard has had this experience with lots of composting. And for us, we did this reusable to go pilot where it was just there are some spots that were giving the reusable container out still in its box like a Christmas present with nothing inside of it. And no, that's not their fault. This is just the reuse economy is a very different, novel system, specifically in Miami. But fortunately, there are a lot of experts that have done this in other parts of the world that have been speaking at this conference, so we can learn from them. And we've been reaching out to groups like Reuse Seattle, Reuse LA, and everyone's always so happy to hop on a quick phone call and share about their key successes, key learnings. So it's been great to tap into this supportive community to make it happen down here too.
Absolutely. Yeah. And actually, what is the support of the community in your areas? Is it, very strong? Do you have to educate folks? What is each of your work in bringing in the community to support zero waste planning?
So we started off small. Here in Southwest Ranches, we set up a task force monthly meeting, and we invited the community. It started out grassroots, as basic as you can get, word of mouth, sending out emails and newsletters, writing articles and things like that to get people interested in the discussion about incineration, and letting them know how it would impact them. This was one of the main drivers, and when we first started out, was that we were raising the alarm. We were waving our flags and letting them know that an incinerator is coming to town, and this is how it's going to affect you, your families, and your animals, as well as the wetland ecosystems of the Florida Everglades, because it's a sensitive ecosystem that cannot take any more pollution. It already has methyl mercury in the Everglades, which is causing a lot of problems there for wildlife. But if you add an incinerator to the mix, and then you have all of this pollution coming out from the stacks entering the air, and then possibly going into the water through the ground. With the leachate that comes from the toxic ash. We're looking at an ecological disaster in the making if we don't stop this now. And so reaching out to our community, like I said, we had farmers market outreach. We have contacted other cities, gone and spoken in public comments and things like that, so that we can raise awareness about incineration, but also, again, to bring about awareness that there is a solution to incineration technologies, and that's called zero waste. But we also have to go the extra mile and explain what zero waste is all about, because a lot of people just don't understand what that means. And some of our elected officials, as well as the industry folks, like to take a play on that name and say that waste to energy incineration is zero waste. So we need to debunk that, and we need to educate people and let them know what the difference is between burning and zero waste solutions are. And that's what we've been doing. It's a lot of public outreach. It's a lot of education. We've been doing the best that we can, and also forming these coalitions with the other groups in Miami and up and down the state of Florida. We're working on that. I know that Neil Selman, who's on the call with us here, we're going to be speaking to him about reaching out to the businesses, because someone asked a question about, how does the businesses come into play with zero waste planning? I mean, we have all different types of stakeholders involved in this. It's not just the residential communities. We have businesses, we have institutions. So we have a lot of work ahead of us because it's a matter of education. I think that if you explain to people what zero waste is about, everybody wants to do the right thing for the environment and public health. And so that's what we're engaging in down here in South Florida. And I think it's going in the right direction. And I can see that we may build this coalition and public pressure to avoid building an incinerator in Broward County. I'm not so sure about Miami. That's going to be a harder fight.
And how are the businesses responding to the zero waste initiatives? Is it positive? Are they concerned? Do you think that they would be on board for the zero waste plan that's coming up in March?
I'd like to defer to Maddie, because she's been involved in the business end of things with reuse and refill. We haven't gotten into that yet up here in Broward, but we will be. And we are in part of the Zero Waste Forum. The True Certification Training Workshop is going to be offered as well. So we have enough time between now and March to invite as many businesses as we can to attend, so that they can get certified, the True Certification.
Yeah, I can jump in a little bit about businesses. So with two of our previous kind of government campaigns, we worked with Miami Beach to create a plastic-free MB program, and then Miami-Dade County to create a larger plastic-free 305 program to encompass the whole county. And right now the tiered system is based on eliminating one plastic item, eliminating two or more, and then eliminating all plastic items. And it hasn't been the most effective. Hopefully they're not on this call. No, we've been workshopping and finding ways to when we can kind of restructure the program, but it's been challenging because the way it's set up, it incentivizes businesses to switch to alternative disposal or alternative disposables in many cases, which are more expensive. Even if they were affordable, they get soggy, they're lined with PFAS, they don't even end up in a composting facility because we don't have a large municipal composting system down here yet. And the main thing really is the price, the cost. A compostable clamshell is probably 40 cents per unit compared to like a 5 to 10 cent styrofoam clamshell. And like, I do not knock a business for not being able to afford that. And so what we're really hoping to do is modify the system so that the first tier recognizes reusables for in-house, the second tier recognizes maybe more sustainable disposables, and the third tier is maybe reusables to go. But we really want businesses to be able to get recognized for that reusable dine-in because that's a guaranteed money saver. It's lower hanging fruit, and there are partners like plastic-free restaurants that will pay the bill for those items. And so I think we've gotten, businesses care, they support it, they're interested. It just doesn't always make the most economic sense the way some of the incentive programs are set up right now. And so I think with some tweaking, we'll get even more engagement, but I do also notice kind of very clear patterns by neighborhood. Like for example, Miami Beach, it was very easy to engage businesses and get them on board because they're on the water. They have had a sustainability department at the government level for years. They are very affluent. There's more money there to purchase these products compared to more inland and lower income neighborhoods where we've through some previous NOAA grant, we were focusing on inland neighborhoods along the Miami River. And I do think there needs to be more investment in just like overall education and awareness because they've not necessarily been included in the sustainability movement in the past.
Absolutely. And MacKenzie, have you seen some of that work perhaps with Florida Rising to try to bring in more marginalized communities into the work that's being done and not just having it be, the affluent neighborhoods and people with money that can be able to implement these types of programs?
Yeah, no, definitely. We actually did what was it? We called it a tour de toxic where we kind of went through like the first half of the fight where we visited those facilities like the burnt down incinerator, a toxic landfill. And then from there we actually went to a business that was a part of the I believe the Plastic Free Cities program, and then also we went down in South Miami to showcase communities. It was a composting farm, a farm that utilized composting, and that's really what we wanted to do was show communities like, hey, like this is where we're at. This is where we can go and show them like these are real tangible things like these businesses are practicing these zero waste. There are real full composting programs that are real and things you can touch and see. It's not a concept. And so and then also reminding our communities that again, a lot of come from like Latin America or Caribbean backgrounds, and in a sense, we've it's just more so like we've just telling us we already practice zero waste, like these are very real things. Like, they'll, you go through any grandmother's drawer and you'll see, that little tin cookie jar, right? And it's not going to be cookies in it. It's going to be a whole host of things, and even for example, like, those grocery bags, obviously they're plastic. They're not good, but, they repurpose these things, so I think we are in practice, and we have these things where we come from communities where we had to be resilient, we had to reuse our items, we had to repurpose our items. So it's just more of a reminder, and then also showing our communities that we already have done it and we can continue to do it and improve on how we're doing it. And so that's really, the angle that, we really have gone about it, and really kind of showing folks that incinerator is not the way. It's gonna end up one in a marginalized community, and then also just reminding our communities like, we can do this and we have done it before. And so yeah, that's the way we really like, kind of go about it, convince our communities, and to fight for this. And so yeah, that's all.
No, that's great. I mean, you brought on so many points that had my brain just kind of going. I mean, first, the grandma situation, I highly identify with that because that's how my family's been doing things forever. I mean, they've just been reusing since, I mean, our grandma reuses Ziploc bags all the time, which probably is not the healthiest, but whatever, that practice is still there. So it's nurturing those practices that are already in place, is extremely important. And I think you also brought up another great point of like the incinerator is not going to be put, in South Beach, right? For everyone to see the impacts of it. It's going to be placed on people of color, on marginalized communities. That's just going to have a really terrible impact. So all great points there. So with that, how can zero waste plans for cities be useful in making systemic changes in your communities? And how do we create zero waste plans for communities and cities based on each of your experiences? How would you frame them?
So, how do we frame that? I would say that it's important for each municipality to consider having their own zero waste plans developed and implemented. We can't simply sit back and wait for the counties to implement zero waste plans for everyone. I think it's important that each city consider a compost program, either community-wide or service, a paid service if they can encourage their residents to do this. But we do need to start composting here because our soils are depleted of nutrient-rich organic soils. Just up in going up to West Palm Beach, there are sod farmers, and one of the things that they're complaining about is that they're running out of soil. So by composting all of this material that we're generating, we can actually make a major contribution towards the regeneration of our agricultural soils, and that's something that we're looking forward to being factored into zero waste planning. It's a big part of it because the compostable materials between the two counties, roughly, it's estimated that it's about 60% of the waste stream. So that's a huge chunk of material that we can recover as opposed to having it go to destructive disposal in landfills and incinerators. And so I think that implementing these things in each city, city by city, we have to definitely educate the community members and let them know why we need to do this and how it benefits them. And we also the governments can play a big role in putting together budgets for an ongoing public education campaign, putting up billboards on the highways, advertising it and diverting, some of the tipping fees towards zero waste plans. I think those are some initiatives that can be taken by both the private sector as well as the public sector. And we all have to work together on this in order to achieve these goals of 75% recycling in Florida by 2030. That's not too far away. So we have a big challenge on our hands. I think that we can reduce the use of landfills if we divert that level of organics away from the landfills. We will cut down our methane production from the landfills, and as far as the toxic elements that come out of incinerators, it's a dying industry. Since 1995, there has been no new site location, despite hundreds of attempts to build them around the country. They've failed. So we have to really focus in on what's important here for the future generations to help mitigate climate change and global warming. And if we don't, we're going to see a disaster take place in Florida.
Thank you, Richard. MacKenzie or Madeline?
You repeat the question, sorry.
Yeah, no worries. How can zero waste plans for cities be useful in making systemic changes in your communities? And how do we base them based off of your experiences?
Yeah, no, I think just definitely for us bringing these ideas and this the entire process to community, right? And I think Maddie said it herself, like, Miami's so diverse, like each neighborhood is different from the other. And so, we're gonna need a collective of folks and people to go into these communities and say, what would you like to see? What would benefit you most? And also just explaining what zero waste is in a way that it can kind of be complicated, but showing that it can be simple. And we can do it, and it is possible. And so I think just really just going inside neighborhoods and communities, and being thorough about that community effort as we build a real plan, and involving stakeholders, and again, just like the broader community, because what we don't want to see is a small group of folks making decisions for everyone in every county, that may not work for everyone in every county, right? Or every neighborhood. And so that's really what we want to emphasize, as far as like really developing a plan, is that community engagement, and making sure that we're every step away, that there's community involved, so that no one is left behind, no one's not accounted for, and that no community is being left with the burden and no solutions.
Absolutely. Stakeholder engagement is extremely important in planning. Madeline?
Yeah, so I can add, this is all great. I'm like taking notes about everyone else's talking points too. Um, but just kind of speaking specifically about what we just got funded with Sea Grant, a NOAA Sea Grant opportunity. So the purposes of the workshops, there's going to be one that's specifically, and this is all kind of ideally going to be a small piece that the county can hopefully put within their plan, because this is just a small piece of the massive waste equation. But we're going to have a workshop for these zero waste service providers, composters, refilleries, repair, refurbish, recycling, and create these profiles about how much it costs, what do they promise and deliver, what's their geographic scope, and basically do the same with these service users. So schools, businesses, governments, whoever wants to like contract or work with these people to implement their solutions at their business or establishment. And then loop in government to see, what are laws, policies, regulations that we need to be aware of, and how can we address those to make sure these projects can succeed. And the funds actually technically just came in, I think, like 2 days ago. So right now, it's really the key thing to do is make sure there is representation within that group, because we got everyone together in January thanks to a tiny bit of startup funds, and we're able to get input on our application that was funded, but then have been kind of slowly doing as much as we can until it actually fully got funded. And so I do feel like it has been very environmental community centric, and I'm looking forward to figuring out the best groups and best individuals, businesses, and whatnot to loop in. And I will say the grant isn't that big, so it doesn't fund implementation, but it does, part of it funds me developing a research plan for these projects that hopefully we can find funds to do that with afterwards. So taking these plans to the community, to meeting people where they are, whether that's the public library system, big fairs, big markets, to get their input on the projects that come out of it and how to make it work for them. And so that'll be a key next step. We hopefully want to potentially loop in like some investors, maybe have like a project pitch night, because we don't want to just be depending on government and grants to make these projects work. See if there are investors. I don't even know if I'm answering the question. I kind of just like went on a tangent
No,
about.
you are. This is great. You're doing this is yeah.
I guess the last thing in terms of like a systemic approach somewhat is that we really want to bring a wash hub here that can allow the reuse economy to scale, because right now sometimes a cup provider has to send their reusable cups to a different state to sanitize them because they couldn't find enough washing partners down here at local restaurants. And I think we've connected with Our World, who does great jobs building these hubs in economic development zones. And I think there are great neighborhoods where we can put this to create green jobs and start a change towards a reuse economy that is just and accessible. And hopefully that is a result in the next couple of years.
Absolutely. Yeah, we had a comment in the chat, which I think it might have been from Ruth, that says you might be able to skip the compostable foodware approach and go straight to reusables. So that would be amazing. Just skip single use completely. Okay, great. So with the last 5 minutes, I want to provide some questions from the chat. And Neil, I know you had a comment. So do you want to make your comment real quick, very fast, so I can get to some questions from the chat? Neil said.
Let me just I'm gonna just let anybody who can unmute themselves. So you can unmute yourself, Neil, and start your video if you want to.
Oh, sure. Thank you very much. It's great to see such energy at the community level opposed to the incinerators and for zero waste. A quick anecdote. Years and years ago, a small city in Massachusetts, the city was offered a deal to build an incinerator and get all kinds of host community benefits. And the vote on the city council was 8-1 to have the incinerator. But in that town, you needed to vote twice at the city council to make it official. And in that week, the citizens organized, particularly one woman who was a bond finance expert, and she pointed out the financial disaster of what it would be if the town passed bonds to build this thing, and then other people added the environmental downside, and they all said, the citizens got up in mass, 300 people said that if you build this incinerator, we will never vote for you again, and our children will never vote for you again. And at the next week's election, it was 9-0 against the incinerator. So keep up the organizing and get your messages out. It's really great to see this activity.
Yeah, I want to shout out MacKenzie, who mobilized. How many speakers were there at that last county commission meeting? Over 100.
Great.
I was there. We were there till 5 p.m. We were there all day. He did an amazing job.
Yeah, no, definitely can't take the credit. It was for sure a collective of us. The city of Miramar showed up strong, and yeah, I think that's really what it is. It's like we got to get to the point where this is, incineration, is a, that's not an option for our communities, right? And really pushing forward, true zero waste. And I think, engaging, with the budget as well. Showing the cost that the cost, not only the cost of the incinerator, which can tune up to, $1.5 billion, the length of which it'll take, the lawsuits that they'll have to deal with, while we can just really push forward zero waste solutions that we can do immediately, we can implement now. Obviously, we'll need some structure, infrastructure things, but that's where the money can come in, and really just like really getting our communities, and all of our communities on the same message that we all want collective zero waste. And it can be hard for some communities. I remember having a conversation with an individual who lived in Doral, and I was in his house, and you could see the incinerator and that landfill out their window, right? And they're really concerned about just moving it out their neighborhood, right? You know what I mean? But I had a conversation with them and really just talked about like the real possibilities of zero waste and what we can do. And he even eventually referred to some of the things that they were able to do in Puerto Rico, where he was from. And that was just a change within itself. And so I think it's going to take a lot of obviously educating our community and just mobilizing our community and saying this is not an option for us. Incineration is not an option for any of our communities, and that we really want to build through a real zero waste plan that can create jobs for all of us collectively and keep our air clean.
That's amazing. Thank you, MacKenzie. So yeah, we have about a minute left. If anyone has any other questions that they would like to ask, please share now. If not, I'll have the panelists provide your closing remarks if you have any. But thank you so much for being here. It was so great to speak with you all, and it was a really great, I love this discussion. So thank you so much. Any other last questions? Speak now, forever hold your peace. All right. Oh,
Yes, this is
yeah, go
Richard.
Richard.
So I do want to recognize a couple of people that are here with us. Mike Ewald, who was instrumental in helping me get off the ground with Broward Clean Air back in 2023. And Mike has been a huge resource of information for us and helped us through with PowerPoint presentations and things like that. I would also say that Isabel Farah, who is here with us as well, she is a rising star with Broward Clean Air and Southwest Ranches, and I would like her, if she can speak a little bit, just to introduce herself to the group and tell us what she's doing and what she wants to do.
Yeah, you should be able to unmute and start your video.
Hi, sorry, I'm in a car, so I'm just not really prepared. But yeah, I've been really interested in this movement as well over the past year and doing a lot of research on upstream and the Ellen MacArthur Foundation and all those amazing resources. And I'm particularly interested in the reusable container services. And that's something I really want to get involved in and get start here in South Florida. So definitely would be interested to collaborate and speak more with everyone here. So thank you so much, Richard, as well for the shout out and for everyone here. This was very interesting. Thank you.
MacKenzie and Maddie, any last questions or thoughts, comments?
Yeah, no, I'm just like excited to work alongside Richard and Maddie to really push forward to to develop solutions and also stopping incineration, right? Because yeah, like I said, they're two sides of the same coin, and something that you know you know we need to do both at the same time. Obviously, we all have our roles in this fight. But I'm, just excited to see where we can go because I do think there's a lot of potential, there's a lot of fire, and there's a collective of us that are ready to really develop a real true zero waste like Miami and South Florida broadly. Because again, it's not just a Miami fight. It's a Broward fight, it's a Palm Beach fight, it's every all it's going to take collective of us to really address this issues, and so that no one is burdened with anyone's waste, and that we all are benefiting, like I said. So yeah, that's really it.
Awesome. And yeah, I feel like my usual calls to action, everyone on this call already does, because you're all great zero waste people. But if it makes any sense at all to chat about Zero Waste Miami, whether you're local and want to get involved or you're from another area and want to provide input, expertise, companies swoop in. Since our funding's here, I have so much more time now, and I'm always happy to hop on a call, or a Zoom. And I put my email in the chat and also a link to a webpage with a little bit more about the coalition, but would love to tap into everyone's expertise at this conference because everyone's doing really great work.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for being here. And I hope you all enjoy the rest of the conference. Remember that the Zero Waste Forum will be held in Hollywood in Florida at March 30th through April 5th. It's an in-person event. So if you are in the area and you'd like to join, please do. We'd love your support. And then the rest of this month for October is Zero Waste Month for Race to Zero Waste. We'll be highlighting expert voices every Thursday on our YouTube channel. So visit that. I'll put the link in the chat. And thank you everyone so much. It was great to have you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.